there's no guessing on who the Golden State Warriors are going to play in the playoffs as of right now. There's just so many moving variables. But if you had the chance to choose, who would you want the Dubs to play in the first round? We're breaking it down on today's Locked On Warriors.
Who cares now? Because I'm here, and I would like to think that I am wanted here.
Most importantly, he a dog.
We got 4 championships.
You are Locked On Warriors,
I know Jimmy drinks great wine.
your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Speculation is just what it is, though.
Your team every day.
Oh, a week from Sunday, I guess a week from after the Rockets game, we'll be talking about the Warriors playoff push. When I say playoff, not play-in, manifesting. Welcome to Locked On Warriors. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You can check out the show on YouTube, wherever you get your audio podcasts. We are free and available. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. We very much appreciate it. We also have a free daily newsletter. You got to subscribe to this thing. It's free. It's sent to your email. It will keep you updated on the NBA. And I promise you, you will not send this thing to your spam folder. LockedOnDaily.com. My name is Charlie Walter, formerly of 95.7 The Game in the Bay Area. Covered the Warriors for the flagship station. Also their championship run in 21-22 for CBS News Bay Area. Guest today, it's been a while. It's boots on the ground, Mike Loginoff, who will be at the Warriors' April 13th game against the LA Clippers. And I just got to say this, Boots, every time you've been to a game this year, the Warriors have won, and that may be a very big game. Welcome to the program, my friend.
It's good to be back, Chuck. It's good to be back. I'll channel my inner Zach Lowe here with Howard Beck, but what up, Chuck?
Not a ton. Just talking some Dubs, man. Before we get into the playoff path and just the state of the Dubs overall as we, enter the heart of April, let's break down what went bad against the Houston Rockets. Something that I did not talk about on yesterday's show at all were the Zebras, the referees, which obviously based on the comments that flowed into the show, a lot of people were pissed off. And I don't like to talk about the refs too often because, look, you're going to get bad ref in games. Every team hates the way it's officiated when they're on the losing side of the scoreboard. That's just the fact of reality. And in a 7-game series, you're going to get one of those games where you feel like you're getting grabbed, where you feel like there's nothing being called. But you go back and you watch the tape of this, and there are certain moments where the Houston Rockets literally have their arms like inside Steph Curry's armpits, which to me is like the definition of a foul, right? They let the Rockets get extremely physical in that game. And I'm not sure if you saw them in a 7-game playoff series, they'd be able to get away with that every single game. That's all I'm going to say on that.
Yeah, I don't think that they'd be able to get away with that every single game, Chuck. It's probably something that if that's game 1 of a series, the refs are told to keep an eye out for it, to be aware of it. And then it probably happens at a much lower rate over the course of the series, and they start calling those fouls. But it's also something that, I don't know if we can necessarily say that with confidence, because it's something that we've seen not only this season with Steph, but the past several years of the man having probably the worst whistle of any superstar in the NBA. And if people don't want to take my view on that, take Jimmy's view from another superstar, another, all NBA guy, and what he has to say about that. And you just see Steph, and it's not just even in the, this past Houston game, but remember the Grizzlies game last week as well, and seeing Ja run up behind him and, hit him from behind. And then Steph loses the ball, and the Grizzlies were, calling for it to go the other way. And Steph looks at him like, what are you talking about? You ran right into me. You hit me on the arm. I lost the ball out of bounds. And it's just something that I feel like the Warriors have to deal with. But, it's unfortunate. And it's not just Steph, obviously Draymond, right? He's got a little bit of a reputation. And I think it's something that was interesting by Draymond was encouraging the referee to call a technical foul on him, and the ref obliged. So that one I think is on Dre.
It felt like a game that the Warriors just didn't really have the I don't know if energy is the right word, because it's a massive game with 5 games remaining in the season. Like, you'd have to imagine the energy was there, but just the pop, like whatever that means, there just like wasn't that pop there early. And you could tell that Draymond getting in Şengün's face, and then before that getting in Dylan Brooks' face and baiting a technical and going nuts after the technical, leading to a Warriors chant. Like, you could tell that was just kind of to wake up his team. Like, hey, fellas, we need to win this. I'm here to do everything I can. Unfortunately, he didn't do everything he could because he was on the bench for a large majority of the game, and that's where the Rockets did a large majority of their damage. But that conversation is for another day. It's a loss. It's one of a 72-game schedule. It happens from time to time. With that being said, the playoff path, the Warriors are tied with the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Memphis Grizzlies, and the LA Clippers. So 5, 6, 7, 8, all locked up between these teams. You'll have a chance to win that tiebreaker against the Clippers if you can win your remaining games. The rest of them, you don't necessarily control your own destiny. However, tiebreakers, Minnesota, you have it.
And Memphis, we have too. Yep.
So you control your own destiny in that sense. And your remaining 4 games are at Phoenix. It's the San Antonio Spurs. It's at Portland and the LA Clippers. Phoenix is the must-win of all must-wins, and they've given you some issues this season when fully healthy. But let's pose the question. If you're a Golden State Warriors fan, and I want to hear from you, chat. If you're a Golden State Warriors fan, who do you want to play in the first round? Like, who is that dream scenario to you? Because it was just 72 hours ago I said, hey, if somehow you do get into the play-in and you win that game and then get a little bit of rest before you go into Houston, I wouldn't mind seeing Houston. After watching them the last few times and seeing just how close they've kept all these games and seeing how they were able to turn a 30-point deficit into an overtime game months back earlier in the season, like, I don't want to play Houston. They're tough. They foul. Their wings are long as hell. They're great defensively with Thompson and Brooks and Tari Eason. They're everywhere. I don't want to see them. No, thank you. Who do you want to see?
It's tough because, when you say who we're tied with in the standings, it's basically half the West, right? You even got Denver there, who's only half a game up on us and has the same amount of losses, which is important to think about too, right? Because wins you can string together. If the Warriors win out, then they finish 50-32, right? The Nuggets could lose a game and then we're ahead of the Nuggets. So it's really tough to think who would be the best matchup because, like you said, the Rockets, I'm looking at the standings here. The Rockets, we didn't play them well last game, but Steph also had 3 points. Is that going to happen over the course of a 7-game series? Probably not. Equally as well with the Rockets game plan of face guarding Steph, I would imagine that over the course of a 7-game series, that's something that Steve, Stotts, Stack, Draymond, Steph, Jimmy, the rest of the guys can put their heads together to kind of scheme out of that. So the Rockets, while their perimeter speed and athleticism and length is definitely, it proves to be a tough matchup for the Warriors, right? I think that that's still something that in a 7-game series, you probably take the dubs. The Lakers were a team that when they had AD were really scary, but now they don't have AD. They're still, and I'm speaking from the perspective of, a matchup against the Warriors, right? Because just the size and the dominance that AD commanded in the paint was one that I don't think anyone really particularly enjoys having to play against AD. With Luka and LeBron, I think the Warriors actually, can match up a little bit better, right? And we saw that in the last game. I definitely do not want to see the Clippers. The Clippers and their perimeter speed and their shot making, that's kind of the difference of the Rockets, right? They have these guys who have these great athletes on the perimeter. They can get out in transition as they did against the Warriors yesterday on Sunday. But their half-court offense is just effectively non-existent. Whereas, the Clippers, now with the addition back of Kawhi and having James and Norman Powell, right? It's one of those things that they just proven to be over and over again, just such a tough matchup for the Dubs. And also you throw in Zubac there. So I definitely don't think the Clippers are a team that I would want to see. But oddly enough, I mean, the Nuggets maybe, the Lakers maybe, the Rockets maybe, if we're on the bottom half of that, on the 4, 5, 6 there. I mean, I would probably say Rockets, Lakers, Nuggets is the top half of the bracket that I would probably want to see.
My dream scenario, probably not going to happen, but give me the Memphis Grizzlies in the first round. We'll talk about that coming up on Locked On Dubs.
And most importantly, he a dog.
We need more dogs.
With Robinhood Gold, you can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on retirement contributions. The privileges of the very privileged are no longer exclusive. With Robinhood Gold, your annual IRA contributions are boosted by 3%. Plus, you also get 4% APY on your cash and non-retirement accounts. That's over 8 times the national savings average. Perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive your 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rates subject to change. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold at $5 a month for $1 from your first match. For 1 year from your first match. Must keep funds in IRA for 5 years. Go to Robinhood.com/boost. Over 8 times the national savings account interest rate claim is based on data from FDIC as of November 18th, 2024. Robinhood Financial LLC Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. Let's get back to the show.
Who can stop Steph Curry?
Hopefully we'll never find out.
Yeah, man, for me, it's easy. I think it's the Memphis Grizzlies who love to play first round. Memphis has been extremely tough all season, but as of right now, they're really them and the Nuggets are the two teams in the West that have not been winning basketball games. They've dipped all the way into the 8, so I don't necessarily know how you would play them first round unless you got them 3-6, which isn't likely. So this may all be a moot point. But going back to the Houston Rockets, they're 15-2 over their last 17. I want the team that's limping into the playoffs. And that team right now is Denver. There's some vulnerability there. You can smell blood. A 4-5 matchup with Denver and Jokic, crazy as it is to say, is probably your favorite matchup first round, unless you're one of those people that thinks the Clippers just don't have it. And the Clippers have kicked your ass pretty consistently for a minute now.
Yeah, the Clippers have just absolutely dominated the Warriors for I feel like the past 4 or 5 years. We just haven't been able to get over the top and beat them consistently. The Nuggets is like you say, you want the team that's limping in, right? You don't want the team that's playing their best basketball. The Warriors are one of those teams as well, right? They're playing some of their best basketball of the entire season. And I think it's really looking realistically, right? Because the Grizzlies would be a fun matchup, right? There's a little bit of bad blood and ill will between the teams too after the past several years. But I don't see that realistically happening, right? Just looking at the standings right now. And
the crazy thing is they're tied, right? They're literally tied to where it has like a 20% chance of happening. Like all these matchups have like a 20% chance of happening.
Well, let's hope that the Warriors stay out of the play-in and that we can, even if possible, if they can get to the top half of the bracket, that would be great too. But yeah, I mean, looking at where things stand now, let's say that 1-8, that's where it is, right? If the Warriors are playing the Lakers, the Nuggets in the first round, I think that's probably not a terrible thing. I think the Lakers would be an interesting matchup. It would be a really interesting series because both teams kind of do things a little bit differently, right? You have a little bit more size and strength on the perimeter because the Lakers people say, okay, well, yes. And I know I even just talked about this losing AD, but they have a lot of guys that are about 6'8", 6'9", right? Even Luka, 6'7", LeBron, 6'8", 6'9", Dorian Finney-Smith, Rui Hachimura, Jordan Vanderbilt. So they kind of have this platoon of just tall, large guys that kind of bring the size component, but the Warriors are a little bit quicker and have a little bit more speed. So it's kind of that, smash and dash, right? Thunder, lightning element there and kind of seeing how that could play out together. But yeah, I think any of those teams present a winnable series for the Warriors.
When the Warriors won it in 21-22, which I always bring up that season because that season to me felt like this year more than any other championship season, correct? Like
100%.
I think you could point to that season with the hot start, with the way that they struggled, with the way that everyone just kind of hopped off board and said, this is not a championship team. They just don't have it. And for them to be able to go out there and win it as a 3 seed, it was pretty impressive. So that team was a 3 seed.
Steph playing some of his best basketball in April towards the end of the season too.
Yeah, and he was, he got a little bit of a rest right before the playoffs with that foot injury. and came back game 1 against the Denver Nuggets after the Warriors had won 3 or 4 with the young guns entering the playoffs. But remember, it was Warriors Nuggets first round, and the Warriors almost swept them. They waxed the floor with them, took the series 4-1, and then took the series over the Grizzlies 4-2. And at the time, I'm pretty sure a lot of folks were scared about that Nuggets matchup heading into it. Like I think it was kind of like, this is going to be a difficult matchup. It's Jokic, it's Denver, and it wasn't even close. So that's what I wonder with this team right now, because there's really no way to tell. They haven't had Jimmy for a large enough sample size of losing to think that this team could lose, 4 games in a 7-game series in the opening round. But at the same time, they also haven't beaten enough good teams to where you think the Warriors could rip out 4 games in an opening round. So you're kind of going in with blind faith, like, hey, first half of the season didn't matter. The overall record, the seeding, like, it's irrelevant right now. This is a completely different team, and the team is 20-3 with Curry and Butler on the floor together. You're pacing at like a 65-win season if they were to be doing this all season. And I know it doesn't work that way, but it truly is a precarious, unique, nuanced situation that we're going to see entering the playoffs, to where, hey, if you think the Warriors are going to lose first round, I don't think you're crazy. If you think the Warriors are going to make the NBA championship, I don't think you're crazy. In fact, I'm going to put a little coin on it.
There you go, Chuck. And I think on the topic of going to the championship and that Denver series, I don't know if correlation implies causation here, Chuck. I'm not a statistician, but
Remember the Kendrick album?
I was boots on the ground. I was boots on the ground for the first playoff series at Chase in game 1 against the Nuggets, and the W's got it done. So I don't know if there's some correlation here with, when we get boots on the ground, but we'll find out on Sunday as well. But I mean, I agree, right? The Warriors, they're the makeup of this team right now. It's a really interesting one where, like you said, the Warriors could go in there and you could tell me, oh yeah, they get bounced in the first round by the Lakers, the Nuggets, or they could go on a run and end up in the Western Conference Finals. Maybe someone knocks off OKC, or maybe they take down OKC. It really feels like open season. I think the level of parity in the West is one that we haven't really seen before, right? Just to have this many good teams, but also to really only have one team in the Thunder that's entirely separated. And even the Thunder, I think people, just because they are a young team, a lot of people around the league think that they're vulnerable in the playoffs, which isn't necessarily out of the question. I think we've seen good young teams come up and, they got to take their lumps and before they can really kind of make a jump. And even look at the Celtics, right? The Warriors had to beat them. The Heat had to beat them. And then they finally got their championship, right? And so I think it's part of the growth trajectory of teams in the NBA. And so I think that's why people discount the Thunder a bit. But there's really a lot of teams that are good, strong teams, but that also have their flaws. So it's really open season right now.
And it's why Draymond Green said, we are 1000% winning a championship. He's been there. He's done it. He's seen what it takes. And when the lights get bright, and when you need a bucket, when you need a stop, Curry, Jimmy's never won one, but he's, single-handedly willed his team to that spot. But I mean, this team's got a lot of NBA champions. Let's not forget that. Peyton playing good basketball. Looney is still a part of this team. He's an NBA champion ×3. And then Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga. I mean, Moses Moody played significant minutes in that Western Conference Finals series against the Mavericks. I can't remember Kuminga getting much burn that season, but he's been there, right? He's on the team.
Seen what it takes. They've seen what it takes.
He's seen what it takes. So, I mean, there's no writing off the Warriors, but it is a strange position where this has not been a consistent team throughout the majority of the season, to where you'd look at them and say, yeah, the Warriors can rattle off 7 in a row. With the inconsistencies that they've had shooting, with the Buddy Hield experiment, with, some of the duds that Curry's put up, although months ago, and against the Houston Rockets, with the lack of scoring that Jimmy's had, with the up and down that Pods and Moody have kind of shown throughout the season, with the lack of Kuminga really taking off like we thought he would need to for the Warriors to win a title. Like, it's very fair to sit here and say, I just don't think this team has it. At the same time, 20-3, You are as good as the teams that you beat on your schedule, and the Warriors have beaten just about everyone, and you would feel pretty good about a playoff push if they can rattle off wins over the Suns, over the Blazers, over the Spurs, and over the Clippers to round out the season. Let's discuss the state of the Dubs. It's coming up on Locked On Warriors.
And most importantly, he a dog.
We need more dogs.
The show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Taking care of your mental health is just important as taking care of your physical health. But traditional in-person therapy can be expensive, often ranging from $100 to $250 per session. And that is where BetterHelp comes in. With online therapy, you get quality care at a price that makes sense, saving you time and money. Therapy isn't just for life's toughest moments. It can help with everyday stress, learning how to set boundaries, or developing positive coping skills. Having to access support when you need it can make a big difference, and your well-being is worth it. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA.
Who can stop Steph Curry?
Hopefully, we'll never find out.
What can the realistic expectation for Stephen Curry be entering the playoffs? Because I don't think he's going to be superhuman like he's been the past month and a half, where he's putting up 36, 52, 37, 36, 28, 56. Like, at a certain point, you can't rely on him to carry the team. But what do you expect from him come playoff time?
He's got to be our offensive engine, right? I mean, any game that he puts up 3 points, if the Warriors win, then that's manna from heaven. So last night, I don't think anyone should expect the Warriors to win when you look at a box score and you see Steph goes 1 for 10 and has 3 points. And that, that three was just a prayer towards the end of the first half, at that, right? So I think Steph's going to have to be the offensive engine. But if I can kind of turn this question a little bit, Chuck, one of the things that I'm really looking for is the production from Jimmy in unique ways, because he's proven an ability to get to the free throw line. He's proven an ability to seal in the post and get those passes from Draymond and to, finish around the rim. His finishing has, as of late, has been a little so-so. He's missed some bunnies here and there. But really seeing Jimmy start to knock down some jumpers and really kind of score in isolation and finish in isolation is what I think is going to be really important, because even looking at a game like last night against the Rockets, when Steph's only putting up 3 points, you hope that Jimmy can put up more than, I think, what did he have last night? Like 11, I think, or something like that, right? Did not put up big numbers. So seeing production from Jimmy will definitely be important. And also just that comes from a mentality. And remember, we talked about this a little bit of the difference between him and Wiggins of imposing your will and letting the game come to versus letting the game come to you, right? So it'd be nice to see Jimmy do a little bit more of that and a little bit more of self-creation. And even if it's just even if he shoots a fadeaway jumper and he misses it, or he drives to the middle and gets that elbow and misses the jump shot, just the willingness to take it, I think, is important, just to kind of get into a little bit more of a rhythm, especially towards the end of the season here.
That's another variable that we don't bring up, because all indications are from everyone that has watched Jimmy Butler consistently game in and game out is that he does turn into a different human being when the playoffs come around. Now, he's 35 years of age. Does that make a difference? Historically speaking, yes, it does. He may not be someone that can go out there and grab you 50 points like he was a few years back. But can he up that scoring to where he's giving you some 30-point nights and really taking over? Because one thing that we've seen with Jimmy, even when he has like 11 points, is he hits that superstar bucket, right? He'll hit that corner three with the shot clock winding down, or he'll hit a tough elbow jumper when you need it with a couple minutes to go. He is clutch. That's one thing I'll say about him. So I do wonder how everything will translate over the playoffs. And if we're having these same conversations of like, hey, Jimmy, you got to shoot the ball more than 8 times in a game. We're paying you $60 million. Like, we
get a bucket.
We brought you in here to go get a bucket. You wonder if that's going to change. And based on the track record of who he is, and the last time that we actually saw him healthy in the playoffs being able to do that, you have wishful thinking. When I go back and look at the 2022 roster, It was Wiggins, it was Porter, it was Draymond, it was Clay, it was Steph, it was Looney, it was Peyton, it was Poole, it was Bielitsa. Those were the 9 that played in Game 4 in Boston, a game in which Curry put up 43 points and you won. When you go through that 9 and then you look at the 9 that the Warriors run out there right now, like sure, it's a little bit older than it was back then. Sure, the NBA is probably better. There is more parity. The teams across the way in the East are for sure better. Like Boston has only gotten better than that Boston team. But it's hard to point at that squad and this one and say that one, at least on paper, is significantly better than this one.
No, 100%. And even with you talking about variance and variables, I think, there are guys on the Warriors now that you can get those sorts of, what's the word I'm looking for, contributions from that can really swing a game, right? We've seen Pods do it, right? Pods did it against the Lakers. If it's not going to be Pods, then maybe it's going to be JK. If it's not JK, then maybe Moody's having one of those games where, because he hasn't been shooting the ball very well lately, but, maybe Moody has a game where he shoots 4 of 6 from 3, right? And that's kind of the swing factor. Or even, last night with Buddy, tip of the cap, Buddy actually shot the ball really well. And I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities to think of Buddy coming into a game in the playoffs and having a game where he knocks down 5 out of 7, right? And that's the swing factor. And so when you think about variables and variance, the Warriors have a lot of guys that can contribute in a similar way to how those role players were contributing in the last run. They still kind of have the core guys of, Steph and Draymond. Obviously Clay's gone, but he's been replaced with Jimmy. And I think Jimmy kind of brings a similar sort of element or ability to produce that, Wiggins and Clay and Jordan Poole kind of had a combination of in that playoff run. So I think that there are a lot of similarities. I don't think top to bottom either team is drastically better than the other. I'm sure we'd like to see Steph at 34, 35, maybe not 37, but still, I think the team can still produce, and there are similarities for sure.
It's pretty fascinating to see how this year's team has changed from that one. Like obviously, back then, Jordan Poole was getting ready to be handed a massive paycheck and was looking to be a huge part of your future. You replace him essentially with Brandon Pajemski, a completely different type of player than Jordan Poole, much more in control. I think he makes much better decisions, but not the microwave that Jordan Poole was, and probably won't be the microwave ever that he was, but he grabs rebounds, gets more assists than Jordan Poole did. And, that's a pretty interesting swap there. Klay Thompson, you can talk about, whether it's Moody, a combination of Moody, Hield, Kuminga, whoever it may be, that weren't playing minutes on that year's team that fills that spot. Otto Porter, you can kind of use those same 3 guys that may fill that spot, or a Guy Santos or something. And then Wiggins, you replace him with Butler. So you do that, just swap out on swap out paper. It looks good. Unfortunately, games aren't won on paper. And this is a completely different team than 21-22. So that's the last time I'm ever going to mention these 2 teams in the same sentence, because a new season starts very soon. A week away, man. A week away, and we're going to be getting ready for some playoff games. We will know the Warriors' fate. Just don't play with your food. If you lose to the Clippers last game of the season, well, don't, because boots on the ground is going to be there, and you're going to end his undefeated streak, and the secret weapon is going to be no more. So let's not see that happen. But get to that point. Beat the Suns, beat the Blazers, beat the Spurs. If you're a serious basketball team in a must-win situation, you win these games. Like if the Warriors were to lose one of these games, unless there's something internally in their mind, like we actually want the 7th seed because we want Houston.
But you don't want to play that game though. You don't want to.
No, you don't.
Toy with fate.
You don't get the rest, and you're toying with fate. That's the biggest thing. Like, what if you wake up with a bad shoulder one day and your season's on the line, and Steph Curry's feeling it? Like,
you don't want to toy with the basketball gods, and you want to go in there. You want to eat your dinner, take care of your homework, eat your dinner, finish your food. Don't play with it. Just get the job done. Win out the season. Let the chips fall where they may, because then equally too, you're going to be giving the veterans that extra week of rest, after the play-in, which is exactly what they need. And also, too, on the same topic of variance that we were just talking about, Chuck, that's why the Warriors probably aren't great to be in a play-in setting, right? Because you have these role players that, when a few of them hit, you're winning the game because you know what you're going to get from Steph, Jimmy, and Dre. But if Kuminga has a stinker, if Pods has a stinker, if Moody
You can
has
get
a stinker,
25% from three consistently from this team.
yes, and then you lose, right? And that's it.
They have won a lot of these games shooting 25% from three, and that is what is impressive about the Warriors. But again, the competition is going to be much better come playing time when you may be fighting with the Grizzlies or with the Wolves in a one-game setting to control your fate. It's the last thing you want. So, Dub Nation, in order to make them feel good, I think you got to win the remainder of these games this season, and you enter the playoffs.
Get to 50.
Yeah, get to 50, man.
50.
We already cashed the over. Just get to 50 wins.
Yeah, just get to 50.
I was saying this team was going to win 50 games in the summer, and people laughed at me. They
that's
said,
what I was saying too.
I said, dude, they're waiting in the weeds. They're ready to pounce. They're going to make a move halfway through the season, and they got Curry, man. They got Curry and company. Like, they're going to be fine. Everyone was just bitching about Steve Kerr. He can't coach. It's over.
Dynasty's funny
done.
How that's quieted down a little bit lately.
Yeah, Dan Devone, get out the TNT. It's they're 20-3 with these two together. Let's see it play out. There's no guarantees. I think the moral of the outlook heading into the playoffs is this is a team that could be bounced very early, or this is a team that could be playing into the summer. Let's put it that way. And hopefully it's the latter. My friend, enjoy the rest of the season. Let's take care of business in the desert. I was actually just in Scottsdale, Old Town, great place.
Fantastic.
But let's beat Phoenix's ass. What do you say?
Oh, that would be that. We would love that. We would love that. Let's get it started.
Mike
the race
Loginoff.
to 50.
Yep, the race to 50. Mike Loginoff, you can find him at _ the log pod on Twitter. He gives you the analysis there. You can hear him on KNBR from time to time. Appreciate you joining the show.
See you, Chuck.